I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, a lot is happening throughout the summer in many communities, and today we're focusing on Webb City. I'm pleased to be joined by the mayor and the community development director and the city administrator. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Judy.
Feelings about how things are going kind of in general terms for our audience. If somebody says, Mayor, how are things in Webb City this summer? What's your reaction for them?
You know, it would be this summer, it'd be almost any time we're moving up and to the right. Things are going well, going in the right direction, and having a good time with each of the new projects.
Great. You mentioned projects, and I know, Carl, we've talked in the past about a lot of want-to-do projects. You're at the point where a lot of those are getting done now.
Yeah, Centennial Park has seen a lot of construction. In the last year, we've opened up several businesses along East Street. And you know, the economic development in Webb City is strong. Downtown is really showing some signs of good life. We have some big developments going on right now, and Taste of Webb City is coming into town. They're putting in over $1 million in improvements in some of the buildings downtown. So a lot of good things happening in Webb City.
Okay. So we'll talk today on this program about the economic development, the changes, but I know there's a lot of things coming up as well, Erin, and you know, special events. July's a busy month as well for you.
It is. We've got our big festival. We, thank goodness, got to move it from spring to summer, and so we're going to get to utilize the good weather, but also we are moving it back to the park. So it's exciting that we're going to get to have a festival back in King Jack Park again.
And that's the Route 66 Cruzapalooza.
It is, yes. And so we are excited to once again have our car show, all of the entertainment, the crafters, and we have a new element to the festival this year, an outdoor expo. Cola RV Sales stepped up and said they wanted to sponsor that, and so we're going to have vendors that offer things that you can do outside.
Great. And what's the date for that for our viewers who are watching?
July 12th and 13th.
Okay, so coming up pretty quickly.
It is.
And you have ongoing throughout the summer concerts where people can just go out to the park and enjoy music.
We do. The first Thursday of every month, they can come do some free concerts, but also we have our food trucks, and the food trucks kind of came together and said that they didn't want to just do the evening, so they open up for lunch as well, so people can, on their lunch hours, can come and enjoy a good food truck lunch during that same Thursday.
So it's a good day to come to town and stay in town and enjoy it.
Run through the splash pad at the same time too.
Exactly.
Well, I know we have some video one of our students just shot, and let's roll that and let people look at that, and we'll talk a little bit about what people are seeing, and that'll lead us on to some more specific discussions about what's happening. So we're starting off, you mentioned the park. So tell me about
That's definitely King Jack Park. That's the water tower in town, our 1 million gallon water tower. King Jack Park's seen a lot of improvements over the last couple of years. You know, with the addition of the splash pad, the pavilion, the Dawson Trust has donated that pavilion, helped us with that. There's been all kinds of development going on.
You have a lot of sports activities in the park now?
You know, the baseball, softball, soccer, everything's going strong in King Jack Park.
I happen to live right next to that, and there's not a day goes by but it's just traffic and kids and sounds that we rather enjoy. So sounds of life in that place, and it goes late into the night with softball and baseball.
We're thankful for water in the lakes now too. We
plenty of water after this weekend.
Which is one of the few places we're thankful for water right now.
We had some really nice fountains that we couldn't turn on.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, there's one thing probably we don't have pictures of, that we now have pickleball in the park.
We do. That's correct. Yeah. We have pickleball.
That's one of the first, I guess, in the area where you have an official place like that for people to play it and enjoy it. And of course, water features. You mentioned the splash pad. That must be really popular.
It is, and it's free.
Yes.
Webb Corps did a lot of work helping us with that splash pad, with that center attraction in there. We really thank them for that.
And this is the pavilion you mentioned.
Yeah, that's the
people gathering spot. And then, of course, right across the street, right across the highway, you head into downtown. So we have some pictures heading into the main area. So talk a little bit about the development. You've talked about businesses in the
We're very proud of our historic downtown. You know, we are now 100% locally owned, and it is just booming. We've got some great boutiques. We have a new downtown group, a merchants group that we haven't had in the past. In the last 5-6 years, we finally have this group put together. We have shop hops several times throughout the year. We're going to have a sidewalk sale in conjunction with our festival as well.
Same weekend.
And then we've got Just a Taste coming in. Carl mentioned that, which is going to be a really great addition down there. A huge investment for our downtown, beautiful renovations to their building, but it's going to have a wine tasting, deli, coffee shop, you know, kind of a little bit of everything in one building, along with an event center.
Judy, one of the things about downtown, our downtown was on the verge of just being old buildings, and do we tear them down or what happens? Or they're historic, can they come back?
Right.
And we're just proud that they're coming back. People are investing large amounts of money in doing them the right way, and we've seen the drawings, we know what's coming, and we're proud already of what's going to happen there.
So you're maintaining the architecture, that classic
Yes.
look of the downtown area, and
Yes.
putting new uses perhaps in those buildings that have transitioned through.
We've went from many that were not being used to really, we're down to 3. 2 of those have plans, and one other building on Main Street are the only buildings that are not under development right now.
Right, so they have plans and working it together. Of course, you have other recognizable locations around town. You know, go even beyond the immediate downtown area. People recognize these if they're from the region.
Yes.
Our great library, which we were fortunate enough to get a new roof on recently.
Right, and then we transition out to the new retail area. So tell me about the developments here you mentioned.
Centennial Park, you know, the city council purchased that land several years ago, invested about $4 million in infrastructure. It's starting to see life. ECWB, that is their strip mall. He has 3 tenants in there now, and I know he has plans for more coming very soon. Big things happening. Atwood's completed their construction, opened in May.
And much larger store, and
Much
Yes.
larger, very nice. Right across the street from Atwood's is a planned 30,000 square foot convention center and hotel. The plans are in engineering right now. We've seen them, we've been working with them, so it's coming.
So we'll be seeing groundbreaking somewhere down the road.
The groundbreaking probably would have already happened for the convention center had it not been for all this rain.
Right. You can't really dig a shovel when it's muddy.
Right.
It's been terrible.
But then we also have housing. We mentioned it there at the
Yes.
end. We saw some new housing as well.
And also, I hate not to mention Cardinal Scale. I saw the picture of Cardinal Scale. They just completed an 80,000 square foot investment in their facility there, and are bringing jobs, additional jobs. And they have also put, I don't know how much money, but a lot of money into one of our buildings downtown at Doherty Street and Main Street. And people need to drive by and look at that. That is an amazing piece of architecture.
Yes, and again, they saved the architecture from historic, added some space to it, but they've just complemented nicely and really spent some good money to help our downtown.
So people investing into downtown
Yes.
and tying that together.
Yes.
So it's a good mix of existing businesses as well as in the Centennial Park area, perhaps new businesses that you haven't
Correct.
had before.
Yes. Yeah, nearly every piece or parcel of land up and down East Street, north up to about north of Ayler, is either sold or under contract. And we are helping with several different businesses right now get started with their building permits. We're putting in a lift station for wastewater on the other side of East Street. You know, the council's been very aggressive in getting that land occupied.
And that was a big step
Yes.
by the council years ago to say, well, let's buy this land and do something
Yes,
with it.
and it's sat there for a long time, and we laugh and we say things among ourselves that, you know, we had a roundabout to nowhere for a very long time, and people began to wonder, is something going to happen? But when a few key dominoes fell, then everything else went, and we knew it would, we just didn't know when, and now it's coming to fruition.
Do you see that obviously it's serving Webb City and its citizens, but it's regional service in that location as well?
Yeah, part of the plan of it was, you know, for D Highway someday in the future to come down through there, get D Highway off of our Main Street, try and settle some of the traffic down on Main Street, some of the large truck traffic, get it out onto East Street. I think that'll happen once the bridge is completed on D Highway. You'll see a large amount of traffic increase on East Street. We had large traffic up until they tore the bridge out.
Right.
And you know, we anticipate, you know, it opening and by school time this fall, we anticipate really seeing a lot more construction started.
Judy, in the pictures, you also show some good housing. We have added housing, single family, multi-unit, just a lot in the last few years. Very nicely done and very well planned, and so we're very happy about that, and lots of room for folks to come to town.
Great.
The
Now,
Redwood development should be opening any day now
Yes.
on 17th Street.
saw some of the video and some of the senior housing and things that are happening. If you drive up, you see a lot of this development. How are you handling it? You mentioned infrastructure. You know, obviously these new homes, they're all going to need the
Yes.
sewer, the water, the roads.
You know, several years ago, we made the decision to switch to a construction crew of our own instead of contracting out some of our sewer work. That has really helped us with our costs, but we have done some major projects on sewer. We have some more major projects to do. I think that'll be something that'll be every day in the future we'll have to look at. You know, crossing 171 with our wastewater, that's a big deal. Fixing some of our floodwater. You know, this big flood that we had recently, you know, it's historic rainfall. Yeah, we took some hits and we had some damage, but nothing like what we would have done if we'd have got that kind of rain 10 years ago. Broadway Street, places like that. In 2007 went completely underwater. We lost 2 police cars. We lost a public works truck, in some of that flooding. And that was a 4-inch rain. This last rain was 16 inches in 24 hours.
And it didn't go underwater.
And it did not. We had places go underwater, no doubt about it. There are still low areas. There's always going to be problems with that, but we're working hard to try and solve them.
Great. So I imagine you hear a lot from citizens as far as communication, and that's one thing I remember last time we talked a year ago. So how people aren't afraid to come talk to you as mayor.
They're really not, and Carl does a great job as well. Our city hall is we want to be as transparent as possible, and we've recently had an issue of poor communication from a vendor, and folks felt pretty free to call, and our staff does a great job. Normally that call comes in those circumstances and they're a little bit upset. We'd like to think within 30 seconds we can have that calm down and have them as an ally. And I think for the most part that works, simply because we're not afraid to listen and to answer their needs.
Right. So having that open policy to let people find out what's happening.
I think we're still small enough that people can just call and get a hold of us, and we'll do everything we can do to fix the problem.
And you have a website, like in most communities, that keep them informed. A lot of activities and things.
And Facebook pages and Instagram,
tying all of that together. Well, I know we talked about the park earlier, Erin, something that has been ongoing at the park, I don't know how many years now, but the popular farmers market.
Oh my
I can't really
goodness.
talk about Webb City without mentioning that.
Absolutely. It's nationally known. I mean, it's the standard for other farmers markets. I think in the nation now, people come to our farmers market and it just keeps growing and is more popular. I know there's a wait list to be a vendor there, all the way to the Christmas market. I know it's a whole other set of vendors at that one as well. So yes, our farmers market 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It just is amazing. We run our streetcar on, I think it's the third Saturday of the month, and the library is in conjunction with that, so they read a story to the children. I mean, there is something going on in King Jack Park all the time, and the farmers market is just one more amazing addition to that.
And Judy, one of the beautiful complementary components we have as a city is when the farmers market grows to that extent, it's sitting in the park and parking becomes a problem. City council responds almost immediately and creates better parking, so one hand serves the other very well, and the good communication, the good cooperation is always a plus.
So as you have more people from outside the community coming to that venue, then you have to have a place for them to park and have to be able to get to it without any problems. Working things together.
And the large kitchen was a great benefit. I mean, for the farmers market, and kind of an incubator for local businesses too.
And they have benefit breakfasts to help nonprofit organizations, so a lot of different avenues and things tied together with those activities.
And entrepreneurs, if they're wanting to start some sort of a business where they need a professional grade kitchen, they can rent out that space as opposed to investing all of their money in that type of thing. They can use our kitchen as a rental basis. So it's really great.
Very cost effective.
Eileen Nichols is always looking for more ideas.
Possibilities for the
you can't talk about farmers market without mentioning Eileen Nichols. We thank her so much.
Well, I know the pavilion, obviously a nice new feature in the park as well. Are people able to rent that out for occasions and activities as well?
They absolutely can. I think one side of it.
You can only rent the east side of it. We've had some issues with that, but right now we're still renting out the east side. The west side stays open for public use all the time. We have had to mount the tables to the ground.
People want to reshift the furniture.
We work real hard to try and make it an enjoyable event for everybody. We want people to have their birthday parties. We want them to be able to rent it. We want people to be available to the public to use it also. So we work real hard. We have signage up there, and we do as much as we can to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. But it has been a little bit of an issue, but it's booked almost every day.
Seriously, we didn't have one before, but if we had 2 or 3 now, they would be full all the time. So that's how much it's used.
And you mentioned the park and the activities and the sports. And you have how many different leagues of sports do you have? I mean, every season there seems to be a sport.
I know I'll miss one, but I think we have flag football, we have soccer, we have boys baseball, girls softball. This year in our baseball and softball programs, we have over 600 kids signed up. Our soccer program saw record numbers this year. It's really growing. We know that's one of the areas, as the mayor mentioned, parking. We know that there's going to be there's a need for parking.
There's a lot of parents who bring all those kids for the sports.
Yes.
Entrance and exits into the park. You know, we'd love to figure out a way to get over to Brewster Street, to have a south entrance and exit to the park. Right now you can still come in on Brewster, and I encourage people to use the Brewster Street if they're for the girls softball, because that's good parking. You're right against the field.
Close to the field.
Yeah, and we encourage people to utilize that parking lot. I noticed this year it started getting used more than it did last year. It was brand new last year.
Right.
This year a lot of people started utilizing that parking lot was pretty much full. We need to work on paving and striping it. I noticed that, and we'll probably get that accomplished very soon.
So you have a kind of a wish list from the council working with the city administrator as far as these are projects we still have on the horizon?
You know, I hate to call it a wish list because everything has some immediacy to it. Everything that tends to get on our list we wish was done yesterday. And so we call it a to-do list. Let's get after this. And that list is a pretty aggressive list, and roads and parking lots, and there's never a time that the increased use of the city facilities doesn't create needs for us to respond to that. And so our city staff is on top of that. I appreciate our staff. That's always a can-do staff. They don't sit back and say, not one more thing. They're ready to go, ready to look at what's next for them. So we appreciate that.
Downtown parking is probably
that may be the top of our wish list right now.
Well, as downtown grows and develops more businesses, people have to have a place to park.
Yeah, as I said, we already know, what's going to be there. Others can't see it yet, but we know what's going to be there. And some days just the construction folks fill the parking spots. So when all that gets there, we're going to have to create some new avenues.
Yeah, there'll be an event center on Main Street that has a 300 capacity. So we're going to need additional parking.
So unless they all come in the same vehicle, that could be a problem.
Right, parking for 300.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we will soon break ground on the 30,000 square foot convention center out on East Street. So that will also provide some parking, but that's a long walk.
It's a long walk from there downtown. Tell me a little bit more about the convention center. People have heard a lot about it, the size, the type of activities that might be held there. What do you anticipate with that?
Well, ECWB is under contract to build a 30,000 square foot convention center. I know he has probably 17 or 18 contracts already for weekend activities. We're working with him to make sure that infrastructure matches and his parking lot and everything like that, those needs come along, the water source. We've been working real hard with him to get that accomplished. He's got the contracts pretty much all awarded, I think, and like I said, they should be breaking ground any day now. They were scheduled first for May 1st. It actually was scheduled to break down the same day Atwood's was opening, but with all that rain, they didn't do it.
Get in there to do anything. Right?
And he's looking at events, as small as a person could for their own personal venue to as large as an indoor-outdoor like farm show.
Right.
So the way that the convention center is going to work is there will be moving walls, a concession area, a ticket office, things like that. So it's going to be able to accommodate pretty much any kind of event that you can think of, small, large, medium, anything. They are planning for that.
And for people to get an idea of size, when we learned 18 months ago or so that John Q was closing the Hammond Center, that with the investor increased the size of this convention center because there was none to compete in the region with that size that they were losing. And so some of the shows that will be historically down there, they're already talking to, because this is going to be sized appropriately, but also built so that a smaller one can also happen.
Right.
And you just can't get a better location right off of 249. Right off of 171. It's just accessible from anywhere that you can possibly think of.
Right.
And the hotel's coming too, right?
I was going to ask about the hotel. That was part of the discussion originally as well. So there's a place to stay when you have these events.
I know that they have been in discussion and working to acquire a national chain. I think that's already done, but I'm not 100% sure, and I couldn't announce
It'll be
it.
close to the convention center, like
Next door.
Right next door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the considerations there is that is also in their planning. The very first picture we saw was one size, and now we understand it's larger because the demands already have increased, and they're going with the bigger one.
Yeah, it started out at 30. It's now at 76 rooms, I believe.
So the room numbers have increased
Yep.
and the facilities as well.
We're excited. You know, we're probably the largest city in the state of Missouri that doesn't have a hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you know, from the tourism side of things, you know, that's one of the things that I think about is Webb City has always been and continues to be kind of one of those places, a destination. We have things that other communities don't. We aren't trying to, you know, take away from anything else. It's just that we have different things.
Right.
What with our boutiques downtown, now with Centennial Park, our Atwoods being the size that it is, our new this convention center, our hotel, the splash pad. You know, there are so many elements to our community that our region, we can offer our region to come and enjoy.
And there's an awful lot of the development that'll be popping up very soon in the Centennial Park area that is geared toward the entertainment side of things for families and adults as well, but just a lot of good entertainment features are going to be built there. So not just industrial, not commercial, but there's going to be a good balance.
It's going to be a real mix of types
Yes.
of businesses and tying that together. And of course you have Route 66 obviously running through town, which
Right through Centennial Park as well.
Yeah.
so that's a big draw for people traveling across the country. You think if they have that hotel to stay at, then they can have a place to.
Yes.
With our car shows throughout the summer, you know, second Saturday of every month, and then our events, and of course with our new merchants and the continuing ones that have invested in our downtown. It's just a great partnership. It goes hand in hand.
And the streetcar last year was renovated thanks to Watco out of Pittsburgh, Kansas. They assisted us with that. I would encourage people, especially if they are interested in rail or streetcars and that type of thing, come to Webb City and check that out. That is an amazing piece of engineering. We really want to thank the Southwest Rail Association for their work on it. Our staff also assisted, but and Watco just did an amazing job. They built an entire engine to attach to it.
So really it's a piece of history that's a living
It is.
history. I mean, you can
Yes.
see what it was like at that time.
One of the really cool things you mentioned, Route 66, is that we partnered with 66 other communities along the route and created a passport. And so along the route, people can purchase this passport and get a stamp and a special little gift if they stop at each of these locations, and Webb City is one of them. So it's really
get their little
exciting.
stamp and say we've made it.
And they're only about 2 weeks old, and I think in the last week we've had about 35 visitors stop in. And you know, our visitor center is open Monday through Friday, so
So that's not to count the weekends.
yeah,
that people
Yeah.
can make.
absolutely.
So tying into the national emphasis on Route 66 and tying everything
Absolutely.
all together and so forth. We also mentioned the residential growth. You mentioned the growth, the population growth end of the city really growing for you.
Yes.
And
Yeah, we'll be anxious to see the next census, and the percent of growth I think will probably be very impressive as compared to other small towns. Small towns seem to be either growing or dying. They don't stay the same. And ours is certainly on the growing side, and its location is primarily the reason for that.
now, in certain areas of town, you're seeing more growth than others. I know a few years ago, you were saying a lot of growth up north, you know, in certain parts of town.
You know, for a while it was to the north and the west. It's mainly the west side of town that seems like it's getting a lot of the new construction. That's just where the land was available. Some of the areas that were platted many, many years ago that economically weren't able to be finished at that point in time, they're all getting finished now. The Chesterfield area, there's 70 plats there, I believe, that are being developed right now. Last year we added 82 new construction homes. We've been averaging probably 50 a year for the last several years, so it's really been, and that's mainly on the west side of town.
Right.
So you know, we've really been working hard to beef up our infrastructure on that side of town also. With that added growth comes, you know, additional demands on your wastewater and your water systems. And we've been very fortunate with water in Webb City. You know, we've actually made some great strides just lowering some wells recently and increased our gallons per minute capability. So infrastructure-wise, we're looking pretty good. We have wastewater issues that, you know, every town does with our inflow and infiltration that, you know, we're fighting, but we're handling it.
And I know, obviously, Webb City borders Joplin. You have some cooperative projects that you're working on with the city, the border, basically, when you hit the two communities, the Zora intersection and so forth.
Yeah, the Zora intersection is going to get a Band-Aid here pretty quick that we kind of both teamed up on. But Zora is going to get a rebuild in the next 3 or 4 years. I believe that Joplin's going to lead the way on that one. We've assisted in a couple of areas, but it's mostly going to be a Joplin project, but we're looking forward to it. I can't wait to see a roundabout at Hall Street and Zora.
And that's we've seen the stories about the bottlenecks in the traffic, which is
Yeah, and
it's good news because you have the industrial park they're going to.
And I think the public will be a little confused because we're going to do, Carl mentioned, a Band-Aid fix on that intersection, and they need to know that is what it is. It'll be nice, it'll be help a lot, but it's not the permanent fix.
Right. There's a long-range goal to make it totally different
Yes.
than what it is today. So
You know, with the addition of Don's Cold Storage there in our industrial park recently, that's really increased the truck traffic there. That thing, I think he's up to 200,000 square feet there at Don's
Yes.
Cold Storage, and he has about 5 different businesses on his marquee out front, so he's very busy.
Right. Which is another aspect of community economic
Yes.
development that you have beyond just the retail, there's that type of industry and the support for the
Yes.
businesses in the community and so forth. Well, if we were to visit, 6 months from now in the middle of the winter time, what would you say would be checked off your checklist that you'd like to say, we've done this? And we have.
I'd like to see Wes finish his convention, the ECWB finish the convention center in the next 6 months.
Yes.
That would be a big check off. Probably won't happen, but would love to see it. Downtown, I'd like to see Taste of Webb City, see them finish their building. There's a couple other businesses going in there. East Street should be under construction in the next 6 months in about 4 different areas that have already been sold and are under contract to build. So I'd like to see the construction going.
There's a lot of new things to be looking forward to.
Yeah. I think it'll be a time when be under construction will be a key phrase. Right now it's all been planning and engineering, and everybody's anxious to see something start. Well, once it does, it takes a good year for those to get finished.
Right.
One of the great things is about our demographic, that our residential growth is not just a specific demographic.
Very
We are
much.
seeing the residential growth for all types, young families, retired, that sort of thing. So that's one thing that's really exciting. We're seeing something for everyone. And with that has come the increase of our police and fire needs as well. And so we've gotten to meet some new officers and some new firefighters, and that's been exciting to see that growth need and then us being able to meet that as well.
And I'm sure you work very closely with the school district as you see those 82 new homes come in. If there's
Yes.
single families
Absolutely.
moving in saying, you might be having some more kids in the schools.
Constant growth.
Yeah, they have a formula that they figured out for however many homes will add so many kids, and they have seen tremendous growth the last couple of years. I've heard that some of the incoming classes now are some of the largest they've ever had, and are growing every year.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank the 3 of you for visiting with us today, providing some information for our audience, an update on what's happening in Webb City.
Our pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judy.
And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Hope you can join me next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.